Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to the Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Today, our guest is Julie. Julie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Julie, let us know where you live and what you do.
Okay, so yes, my name is Julie Cole. I'm the co-founder of Mabel's Labels Inc., which we started 22 years ago. I cannot believe it. And I am tuning in from Mabel's Labels headquarters in Hamilton, Ontario.
Awesome. Awesome. So, let us know why you started this business. What was the biggest inspiration behind it?
Yeah. So there were a couple of reasons why Mabel's Labels started. I had been actually in the traditional workforce working as an attorney, as a lawyer. And there were a couple of things that happened. One, and I do think it's a good question because I think you need to know your why, because when you start a business, you're going to have to understand why you're doing it, because sometimes you'll be like, why again did I do this? Why am I living this crazy life? So for me, it was a couple of things. One was that along with my co-founders, who are actually my sister and two friends from university, we noticed a product was missing from the market. And it was it seemed basic, but it wasn't out there. And it was a labeling product. So we created dishwasher, microwave safe labels for all the stuff kids lose. So for their bottles, their sippy cups, their, clothing, for camp gear, stuff like that. So that was the first one. And, people say, how do you come up with a good idea? And I'm like, go through your day, find something that's missing or something that annoys you and fix it. So that was the first one. And then the second one, I actually am a mom of 6 children. And at the time that Mabel's Labels, when we launched it, my eldest had just turned 3 and received an autism diagnosis. So I didn't think the traditional workforce was going to suit me any longer. I wanted the flexibility that entrepreneurship would bring. So that's when I said to the gals, hey, we've had this great business idea. I've had a real catalyst, for change happen in my life. What do you say? And that was 22 years ago. We made our first label in the basement.
Awesome. That's great. That's inspiring for sure. So, what is your biggest differentiator from the others in the market?
Well, there's lots of things, really. We were the first to market. We created a very innovative product, and we've remained the leader. I think really the secret sauce is our product does what it says it's going to do. Of course, you're going to get competitors. That happens. We expected that. And but we've remained the market leader because our product says what it's going to do. We have tested everything. Ours withstands the best out of any competitors. Our customer service is outstanding. Like, honestly, if you put your label order in now, like, in a few hours, we will have it out the door. Our customers are number one to us, and we really, all their feedback is so important. So because we're so customer focused, we've got a lot of loyalty, and there's a lot of word of mouth. I think also, on top of like quality, being first to market, we've remained the most innovative, and being a fast follower is a legitimate business model. But for us, it's not one that's fun or inspiring. We don't want to do what everybody else is doing and just do it 5 minutes later, like our competitors do. So we just have remained the most innovative. And I think that's key in running a successful business, to stay innovative.
Yeah, for sure. True. So, do you think this is more scary to have more competitors, or this is something that where you can enjoy more, like
Right.
than being lonely in the whole jungle?
Right. Well, it's a very good question because, at first it was something that I found very annoying. And it was because obviously, we do all this work, all this research to launch, and then people just kind of ride our coattails. So that's frustrating because you put in all the work and other people benefit. But at the same time, there is room in the market for other people. It does make you stay on your toes and make sure that you're remaining innovative. It makes sure that you're, keeping an eye on the ball. And rather than focusing all on them, it's really important to stay focused on what you're doing. Now, I say that, but you do have to make sure you're still keeping an eye, in the rearview mirror to see what they're up to, because you want to make sure they're not stealing your intellectual property or using your keywords or messaging and things like that. So like there's a legal piece, there's an SEO piece, there's all of that. But interestingly, I think, one of the hurdles that we had although we thought it would be a bigger hurdle. When you're bringing a product to market, sometimes you have to teach the market that they need your product. But for us, as soon as parents, moms specifically, saw our product in use, they were like, oh, where did you get that? I need that. So word of mouth really did our work for us. But with competition and more labels being out there, now it feels very much like it's something that has to be done. Right. So there's more people buying labels, there's more companies, but it's just that nobody would send their kid to kindergarten without Mabel's labels. And in the old days, they had to, because there wasn't a solution. So we provided the solution. And yeah, of course, competitors came along, but in a way, it just maybe normalized labeling a bit more. So we try to be positive about it.
Well, that's great. So when we are talking about word of mouth and the market side, so how you are running your marketing? Because I believe marketing is one of the essential thing for the businesses in today's age. So
Yes.
how you are managing it, and what do you recommend to the others who are in the industry with related products? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you need to know who your customer is, right? So, our customer is moms, and moms want to feel connected to the brands that they buy from. They don't want to buy from nameless, faceless brands. We know what sort of tax bracket our market is in. We know that they're moms who have a certain level of education, that make a certain amount of money, who buy their kids expensive things. So, you want the more you can know about your market, the better, because you know where to find them, and you know what about your messaging. So when we started Mabel's Labels, there was no social media, but we did know moms talk about products like it's their full-time job. They talk about products, at the school drop-off or at the side of the basketball court or at ballet. But once social media hit, we were very early adopters, because that ended up bringing word of mouth online. And moms could talk about us in their mom blogs. Moms owned Facebook, so they were talking about us there. So it was a wonderful vehicle for us. So I was a very early, mom blogger as a way to stay connected to my community, and having that visible personal brand is also what's going to differentiate you in the marketplace, because, somebody can copy what we do or try to, but they can't copy our original story. They can't be me. They can't, that sort of thing. So I think being visible is important. I think using social media to storytell and to connect with customers and to create your community and make sure you're going where they're going. Our original customers were all on Facebook. Where are our customers now? The young moms are on Instagram and TikTok. So go where they are. And you also have to be, keeping an eye on things like, your AdWords and your e-newsletter. There's a lot. The marketing machine is huge. We have a marketing department of about 12 full-time people, because like you say, this is key. Marketing is sales. And at the end of the day, if we don't sell labels, we're not doing our job.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So after knowing your client, obviously you have to onboard your client. So in this journey, how you are onboarding the clients, like what is your process of onboarding a new client?
Right. So, and I got to say that our return customer rate is remarkable. And it's really important. Like, we have people who come back every year at back to school, or every year at camp. And the way we do that is by having an exceptional customer experience. So not only is our website user friendly and cute and easy and mobile friendly, busy moms ordering the labels, we have that. But then if there's a problem, we correct it. We turn it around. Even if our customer makes a mistake and spells the kid's name wrong, we correct it, and we send out new labels for free. Like, we do all of the things to make the customers have a wonderful experience. And in doing that, it does bring them back repeatedly year after year. There are lots of things that I think, companies can be doing. People love a loyalty program, right? We have an ambassador program. So we reward people who talk about our labels. And especially with moms, creating that community, treating them like they're part of your community, because they are, and rewarding them for that through a loyalty program or an ambassador program is key.
Yeah, I believe this is one of the most important thing when you have a client. You have to retain it, and you have to keep searching for the new clients as well, but you have to retain it. Sustainability is one of the biggest part, which you are doing in a very beautiful manner. Awesome. Like, I believe the community making is one of the, not the latest trend, you can say, but one of the most strong trend. And yeah, that's great.
It really is. And I think, to your point, like, community, and we always really focused on that. Like, when Facebook came up, our Facebook page, like, we had over quickly over 200,000 Facebook fans. And because we weren't using it as a platform just to sell, social needs to be social. So although we make labels for the stuff kids lose, we're always thinking, are we making families' lives easier? Are we doing that with the content we're providing? Are we doing that with the products we're rolling out? In everything we do, we're like, are we making families' lives easier? Are we having a nice mix of content where it's educational, where it's fun, where it makes you feel connected? So I think, you need to get your customers, you need to keep them connected. And of course, you want them to convert, 3 C's.
In your case, don't you think this is not like market development, but more like a market penetration? Because this need is always in the market, like not from today, but from ages, like 1,000 years ago. So, like, how you are perceiving it, like market penetration?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So, like when we started 22 years ago, I had a few little kids. So, we were very much focused on little kids, and we still are. Like, that really is, when kids are going off to preschool or when they're going to camp, like kind of that 0 to 10. But then as our kids got older, we're like, hold on, the tweens have lots of stuff, and this stuff's a bit babyish for them. Let's do product development that tweens are going to like. Okay, now the teens. Okay, now, we've got kids going off to university and college, but they still want to label their laptops, their chargers, their phones, their tech, and their food in the shared fridge and things like that, because that stuff all goes missing when they have shared houses, right? So we've held on to the lifetime of a customer. And interestingly, we now are very focused because our original customers 22 years ago, they're now looking at residential care for their parents. So we're now doing an overhaul of our labels for seniors, so that, we can have our customers for an entire lifetime.
Well, yeah, I think this is a proof like that you can develop the market at any time, because again, your market is not new, but you are changing the trends in it. You are giving the innovation to this. So for sure, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And like you said, getting new customers is important, but it's actually far more financially efficient if you can hold on to the ones you already got. So grab on and hold on tight. And you do that by listening to them and getting the feedback. And, what do they want to see next? Roll it out, get their feedback. We've got a quiz on our website, how easy, how hard was this? What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? And keep them engaged.
Yeah, and well, this is the toughest task, I believe, keeping them engaged. So you're doing well. I'm not sure
Yeah.
the secret sauce behind.
Yeah, I think the secret sauce is just being authentic, being a brand that is visible. I think by being visible, you become credible, and then people are loyal and they will buy from you. So I do think, in these times of AI and in these times of bots, pick up that phone once in a while and call a customer, do a video message, do whatever. Just make sure that you're connecting. So I think connection is our secret sauce. And honestly, the quality of our product is our secret sauce. Like I hear from people all the time, like their labels from 20 years ago are still on. Like this stuff does what it says it's going to do. And we knew that we had to provide that because we knew our market because it was us. We were moms. We wanted cute. We wanted stuff that worked, and we wanted it affordable. And this was a cheap insurance policy that we weren't losing all our kids' stuff.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense. So I'm clueless. Does AI help you? I'm not sure where AI can be included in your business, if there is any role of AI in your business, but are you using AI?
Oh, we use AI in some things for sure. Like if there's a common sort of question that gets asked, we can create something, and then, it makes for quick customer service, but it's still very much in our voice. But if things get escalated, then we've got, humans here as well. We're a big fan of humans. I think AI can be very functional and very helpful to businesses, right? But at the same time, I do feel like there has to be some transparency around it. And I feel like, I would never use AI to write something that I wouldn't write. It might make me do it faster, but I don't want it to, basically it's just saving me time, but it's still something that would come from me. And that's kind of my litmus test. Otherwise, I won't use it.
Exactly. Yeah. AI cannot do what you can do for sure. All right. So in terms of your goals, what are your goals in next 3 to 6 months? You can say your short-term goals.
Right. So sure. So I mean, we have launched on Amazon now, which is really exciting. We have a few more products going up there. We're launching a couple of new products. We've got some R&D we want to get through. I know personally, I have a few speaking engagements in the US and Canada to do. So we're in the hall and we're doing, believe it or not, because like we're into March, we've already like done all our camp planning. We're very much in the, because it's a bit long lead, right? So we're doing a lot of our back to school planning because that's the biggest season for us, back to school. So we need to have all those ducks in a row now. We have to be connecting all those dots, connecting with our influencer who are going to write about us. We're connecting with all our schools and fundraisers and things like that. So we do a lot of sort of that early prep. And I think a lot of this is something small businesses sometimes neglect, is that they're like, oh, it's March. Maybe I should do a St. Patty's Day sale. Yeah, you got to be thinking about that about 4 or 5 months ago. So, short-term goals are great, but you need to have this stuff calendarized. And I mean, we're meeting in May to do strategic planning for our next 5 years.
All right. So, I believe every company work on their short-term goals for sure. Do you think long-term goals are also important for any business?
I do think it is. I think it's good to say, okay, where do we want to be in 5 years? Because if we're doing the same stuff and I'm in the same spot, then that's a fail. We need to be changing up what we're doing, right? So, I mean, I think like if you're just, somebody who's listening and starting up, you have to have that business plan. Of course it can shift and of course it can move, but it should be a working document that you're referring to often. It shouldn't be like that proverbial collecting dust, right? So I do think you want to have long-term goals because you need to plan for that. You might need to make hires for that. If you're going to open up a new production facility or if you're going to expand into a new market, then you have to plan for your HR around that, your hires around that. So there's a lot of planning involved. And that's why long-term planning is important so that you can get your ducks in line.
In fact, in long-term planning, there's the possibility of pivot as well. There's
the possibility of what? Sorry, possibility of
pivot, like pivoting.
Yes, absolutely.
So
100%.
this is very scary word for the business owners. So I think this is something where people are change resistant, maybe, or like this is something where people get afraid of.
Well, and this is it. I think, if you don't have an appetite for risk, this might not be the life for you because pivot is going to be your middle name. Like you have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable because soon as you think you know what you're doing, something's going to shift. You're going to experience a growth. You're going to experience new technology. You're going to experience, a change in the world. You're going to experience a pandemic and your whole thing's going to be shut down. How ready are you for that? How flexible a thinker are you? How prepared are you? How innovative are you? How entrepreneurial are you? So all these things come into play because things change like that.
Exactly. Awesome. So at the end, Julie, what would be your biggest piece of advice to our viewers, especially to the ones who are thinking to be their own boss?
Yeah, look, I think right now you need to be very careful to manage expectations. I think there's a lot of romanticism around entrepreneurship now. You think it's going to be all TED Talks and book deals and big funding from big investors who don't want anything back. Well, it's not. It looks a lot like making labels in a basement when you're pregnant with your 4th child till like 2 a.m. It looks like not being able to buy that new car or go on that holiday. It looks like doing without that salary. So unless you know what it's going to look like, you're going to be disappointed. And if you have a spouse or a partner or a family, you better make sure everybody's going into this with eyes wide open because it is a tough slog and it does get romanticized and there's nothing romantic about it, especially in those early days. That's my advice. Open up your eyes. Be realistic.
That's a beautiful advice indeed. Awesome. Julie, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for joining us today. But before you leave, can you please let our viewers know how they can buy your products? How can they reach you? You can share your website.
Sure, for sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. Course. Also, our website is mabelslabels.com. And if you go to mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole, you can find where, I'm speaking, where to order my book, all of that jazz. So it's all there. I'm on all the socials, Instagram, LinkedIn, like I said, Facebook, all the places.
Awesome, Julie. Thanks again for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation and your advices were beautiful for I think everybody and especially for the ones who are going to start their business. So, well, thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.